Hi everyone, thanks for joining in. I'm excited to have Michelle Tom joining me today. Welcome, Michelle.
Hi, Jackie. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
So, Michelle began her writing career as a print journalist in her native New Zealand. A chapter from 10,000 Aftershocks placed second in the writers Victorian Marion Grace Wilson Emerging Writers Competition in 2019 and appeared in the November issue of the Victorian Writer. Michelle was selected for the ACT Writers Centre hardcopy 2019 non-fiction program and was one of 5 writers chosen for a week-long Verona Memoir Masterclass with Patty Miller in 2017. Michelle lives in Melbourne with her husband and her 2 youngest children. And in the book we'll be talking about today is 10,000 Aftershocks, which I've got my copy here. So thanks again, Michelle, for joining us. Just wondering if you want to start off by telling us a bit about 10,000 Aftershocks.
Sure. So it's quite a complex memoir. It's 2 stories, really. One is a metaphor for the other. It's about growing up in a chaotic family in New Zealand in the 70s and 80s. And it's about the impact that had on me and my 2 siblings, both a younger brother and a sister. And sort of threaded and woven into that story is the second story, which is of my living through the earthquakes in Christchurch in 2010 and 11. And really that story and the story of how the earth moves and what it does in terms of seismic activity in New Zealand became a metaphor. As I wrote about my family, I realized that these 2 stories could weave together, and so it's presented in the 5 stages of an earthquake, and that's the sort of brief summary of what of the style of the book, I guess. Yeah.
And I have to say, I really enjoyed reading it because there was so much of it that I could relate to. Probably not as much the you're growing up part, but especially the earthquake. I didn't live in Christchurch, but I lived in Wellington and had experienced a lot of large earthquakes, and also knew a lot of people who were in Christchurch when the earthquake happened, so I'd heard their stories and that as well. And then also you moving to Melbourne. I moved from New Zealand to Melbourne around a similar sort of time, and some of the things you spoke about, some of the places you lived in, were very similar to what I found myself. So I really enjoyed reading that.
Yeah, it always sort of improves your experience when you can sort of feel and see the things that the author's writing about. Yeah.
I'm just wondering, what was your what made you write this? Was there something that?
I think just as I say in the first chapter, when my sister died, it was like a watershed for me, really. I'd been struggling with my mother, and there's a theme running through the book of this sort of troubled relationship with my mother and trying to figure out what to do about that. And it had been the case for probably 20 odd years that I'd been struggling, and my sister died, and it really sort of just became something that I needed to deal with. I needed to make a decision about it, and I was the only sibling remaining at that point. My father was also dead, so it was just my mother and me. And I just felt like I was on the brink of something. I needed to figure this out. And in the process of doing that, of going to therapy and making those calls, I guess a number of things happen. It sort of does hit you that you're going to write about it, but then you get reinforced as you go along. As part of moving to Melbourne and re-establishing myself, I did a career change course in how to be a florist, and one of the tutors there and I were on a lunch. Everyone else had gone on a lunch break, and her and I were just working, and she picked that I was from New Zealand, and she asked about my story, and I told her we'd been through the earthquakes and we'd ended up in Melbourne because we were so traumatized we couldn't really stay in New Zealand. We couldn't risk going through that again. We were just sort of wrecked, really. And then she sort of delved a bit more. She just kept asking me questions. She was very good at finding out about people, I guess. And I said to her, told her a few bits and pieces about my brother and sister. And I said, I've been thinking about writing this story. And she said, oh, God, I'd read that. And it's just those little comments that just make you pause and think, well, maybe I should actually get on with this and not just talk about it. Often I found it was people just making those little, they probably never thought about it again, but to me it was a big deal. And so I just started to write the little stories, and to be honest, the first 30,000 words were rubbish. It was really terrible stuff, and it went in the bin, and I started again. And again, it was other people I think because I was a reporter, I'm very good at having my radar on and listening to people and what they have to say. And so when people would say something useful, I would just file that away. And I had a number of experiences talking to other writers, and they would just make little suggestions, or they would make observations, and I would just tuck those away and then work on them. And eventually this sort of this style of book, which is quite literary, it's written in fragments, it jumps around in time, but the 5 stages kind of hang it together. It sort of evolved over time. It wasn't something that came to me all at once. So that's sort of this basic story of how it came to be. I mean, there's more detail in there, but I won't bore you with all of that. But basically the catalyst was my sister dying and having to figure out what I'd do about my mum.
Yeah. And did you sort of find it as a healing process, writing it?
It was really, really friggin' hard. And at times I wrote myself into a nice little black hole and would be a bit of a mess for a while, to be honest. And I had to learn to kind of pull back before I hit that point again. So you can write it. I can write and write and write, and then I would have to learn to just say, well, I think I'm just going into a bit of a depression here, thinking and ruminating on all this old stuff. I just have to pull back, and so I would take a break. Maybe sometimes it would be a week, or I did sort of take a month sometimes when it got really bad. But then I would learn to kind of mediate with myself a bit more as I went, and by the end of the writing process, I was pretty good at recognizing when I needed to pull back. So I think overall, it was really good to apply a narrative to what had happened, because when my sister had died, there'd been all these terrible things that had happened in the family, a lot of grief and a lot of distress, and I felt like I was just sitting holding all these terrible events in my hands, and I didn't really know what to make of it all, and where did I go from here, and how the hell did we get here? How am I the only child that's still alive? How did that happen? And so writing it all down, and you have to apply a narrative. You have to give it a narrative arc, and in doing that helps me understand, okay, I can kind of understand now how we ended up here. I can see how one domino hit another and hit another, and this is the end result. So that was good. So that helps me now to kind of shelve, I guess, all those distressing events and understand them in a way that I can now kind of, they're not gone, they're just sort of adjacent to me. They're part of who I am, and they're part of my story, obviously. But I can put them aside to some degree and focus on what I want to do next. And and they're at peace, I guess, within me. And that was another theme of the book was, will Michelle work out how to find peace in her own life? So, yeah.
And when you did find yourself like in that deep dark hole, was there something that you found was good to like maybe take your mind off the writing for a while or something like that?
Yeah, I lean on music really heavily. Some days, even now, if I'm struggling to get out of bed, I will put music on my phone, and that just sort of gives me the impetus to get moving. But also nature. I've always, and it features in the memoir too. I've always been a big bushwalker. You know, in New Zealand we call it tramping. Here they call it hiking. And I've got a bit of a foot injury at the moment, which is preventing me from walking, and I'm really feeling it, because that's my therapy, is to get out in the bush. And I don't know, there's a level of perspective that you can get from being outside and seeing the vastness of nature that you can't get sitting in your living room.
Yeah. And we've got a few people watching, which is great. So just mentioning to the people watching, if you do have any questions for Michelle, please type them in comments and I can read them out.
Yeah, I would love to address anyone's questions.
I've got a good question from Kelly. She said that it's your intro on your memoirs, a sensational way to present it. She wonders if it's hard to read reviews when you're writing about something so personal.
I'm really lucky in that I've had overwhelmingly positive reviews, which has been really lovely. I've seen one negative review, and yeah, I think if I'm honest, it does sort of give you a bit of a kick in the guts, takes the wind out of your chest for a little bit. But then you have to remind yourself that, you know, there's been books that I've read that I haven't loved, and not every book is for every person. And some people haven't had the life experiences that I've had. They can't relate. Literally, they cannot put themselves in my shoes. So if they question, this particular review said something like, "Oh, there's another side to this story." Well, of course there is. You know, this is a memoir. This is my curated story. That's what a memoir is. It's just a slice of my life. It's not even all of me. It's just a certain section of some things that happened to me and my take on them. And I think you just have to remind yourself of those things. And I mean, obviously it's not great to get a bad review, but everyone is entitled to their opinion, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. So you become quite philosophical about it, and you walk into a library, there's so many books in there. What are the chances that you're going to like every one of them? It's just not going to happen. So I kind of take it on the chin now. I'm proud of it. I'm really proud of it, and that's sort of, at the end of the day, that's what I go back to.
And have you had readers reach out to you that have like maybe gone through similar things, or you've really touched them when?
Yeah, I've had a few. I do find that this topic of estrangement is still really taboo. So sometimes people will reach out and go, "Oh, thank you for writing it. It was really important to me to read that," but they won't. I don't get a lot of detail about what they're going through or what's happened in their lives, and I think that's about the taboo sort of nature of this.
I wondered, because you've shared yours, whether you would have readers wanting to share their experiences with you.
People have been surprisingly private about that stuff, and that's what I put it down to.
Surprises me,
yeah. A lot of people writing memoir have contacted me, and just to shoot the breeze really about how to handle family and tricky sort of subject areas, and that's been really lovely, because I have been given so much support on the path to publication that it's really nice to try and pay it forward, help other people as I was helped, and just sort of offer what little I know in the hope that it might just sort of give them a bit of a boost or a nudge in the right direction. So that's been lovely.
And what about your own family? Have they read it, and what sort of feedback have you had from your own family?
Each of my 4 kids was given a copy or bought a copy. The older one's actually bought a copy. But I don't think any of them have read it.
Oh.
It's like I'm mum. I just have to be mum. They don't want to know any of the grisly details about how I got here. As long as I show up every morning and have dinner on the table at night, they're happy. That's been interesting. I think it might be something that the younger ones may read when they're a bit older. It may even be after I'm gone. I don't know. Extended family back in New Zealand have read it, and that's been lovely. I've had really positive feedback from them. And my mother, I don't know if she's read it. I'm not in touch with her, and I have no idea if she even knows it exists, to be honest with you.
And people like that knew you close, and that were they surprised when they read things in the book?
Yeah. I had friends say, really close friends, friends of 15 years more, read it and send me the most sort of shocked messages that they had no idea. Like they knew things had gone on, but they didn't know the detail. And it got me thinking about how we tell our stories to our friends. We just sort of do glance over things, don't we? We don't tell them a narrative. We just say, oh yeah, that happened. We don't lay it all out for them. It's very interesting to think about that in terms of storytelling and how we tell our story to our friends and other people.
And Kelly wonders if there was a part of the book that you found the hardest to write.
The death of my brother. Yeah, that was really hard. I was going through a divorce at the time, and I think I was pretty emotionally shut down. And so when he went missing, I don't know that I was particularly with it. And so that it was difficult to remember, and it was difficult to confront the memories that I did have of going to where his body was found and that kind of thing. So that was really quite traumatic. And I sent away for his file from the coroner's inquest, and getting that back was, steel yourself, take a deep breath, and then open it up and read it. And it's those are really tough things to do, but I needed the information. I needed to know if I'd got it, if what I'd remembered was accurate. So that definitely was tough. When my sister died, there was time. I could say my goodbyes. I could try and put things right. But with him, it was just so sudden.
That must have been hard.
And
I'm wondering if you can tell us a bit about how you got your book published, like when you decided you were going to write it, and how hard or easy was it to sell it to people? And
again, I was really lucky. The chapter called The Beach won. No, it didn't win. It got second. Always feels like it won to me because it was such a big deal to me. It placed second in an emerging writers contest here in Victoria, and that was a big boost because it was like, okay, it's not crap. Well, I'll keep going.
So you hadn't written it all then, that was just part of
And then I made it into the ACT Writers Centre hard copy program, which unfortunately doesn't run anymore. And it was I think it was 3 weekends, and one focused on the actual writing, and then the others were on industry, introducing you to people, having them give presentations on how it all works. And, I discovered that it's a very etiquette-heavy industry, that, there are channels, and I learned that your manuscript has to be absolutely primo before you submit it anywhere. You don't want to be submitting a half-baked project because you could be shooting yourself down. The opportunity won't come again. You get one shot, you've got to make it work for you. And then out of that, there were a couple of publishers who were interested, and then they got the full manuscript and they both declined it. So it wasn't all yeses. I definitely had rejection along the way. And then I took part in the Australian Society of Authors literary speed dating, and it was all done on Zoom because of COVID, and you get 3 minutes to pitch your book to agents, publishers, what have you. And from that, I landed an agent, and she sold it very quickly to HarperCollins. And there were actually 2 publishers who were interested in it, but we went with HarperCollins because of their stellar reputation. And Catherine Milne was my publisher, and it was just a huge honour to work with someone of that calibre. So that's what happened. But yeah, it definitely was ups and downs. It wasn't just a straight line. And you've got to have some guts, I think. You've got to, and you've got to believe in your project. You've really got to back your own work. You cannot kind of falter, or it's like they can smell it.
Yeah. And is New Zealand and Australia the only countries that have published it, or have there been?
Yeah, it's actually only published in Australia at the moment.
Okay, so that surprises me that it's not.
Yeah, that was just for concerns for family in New Zealand. Yeah. And I've just signed with Martin Shaw as an agent, working out. He's an Australian man he's actually a Kiwi who lived in Australia, like us, who's gone to Germany, and he's, we're exploring overseas.
Okay. And do you think sometime it may be published in New Zealand?
Possibly. It's not on the books at the moment, but that's sort of out of my hands because HarperCollins have the rights to New Zealand, so that's up to them, really.
Yeah. But certainly people, no matter where they are really anyway, can buy it online, can't they?
That's true. Yeah. I think Booktopia and Fishpond both will send it internationally.
And maybe a Book Depository.
Yes, possibly. Yes.
Kelly wonders what job you've preferred most, a journalist or an author?
Good question. Gee, I haven't thought about that. I really loved being a journalist. I really, really did.
What sort of things did you do as a journalist?
Oh, well, I worked on really small newspapers. It wasn't the big time. Parish Pump, country towns. But the joy of that was, you were in on everything. So if you went to a council meeting, you knew all the machinations, you knew what was going on. You couldn't print all of it, but you knew what was going on in the underbelly of the town. And I really missed that when I left. I was like, I don't have an inside running anymore. I don't know what's going on. We did everything. We chased fire engines, for goodness sake. There was a technique that we had to learn where you pulled up outside the fire station and you watched for which way it would turn, and then you either chased after it or you did a big U-ey and pulled in behind it. It's just, this is all in the 80s. OH&S would have a field day now, but every day was different. I used to wonder why they were paying me. I was having so much fun. This is different. Writing books is different. It requires you to be more self-motivated. I mean, I did always find my own stories on the newspaper. It's not like people were just handing me ideas. I had to go out and do what the editor called, he'd say, beat the feet, which meant get out there and find some news. And that's quite hard to rustle up stories out of nothing. But I loved it, and I think I'm pretty good at talking to people, so that helped, and that sort of stayed with me, and that's helped with the writing the books too, because I'm actually working on an historical novel now, and it's a similar thing. You're going up to people you don't know and you're saying, what can you tell me about this and that, or this person, or this member of your family?
I was going to ask you what you're working on at the moment. So is it historical fiction or?
Yeah, but it's based on true events, and it's a murder. It's a story of a murder, a domestic violence murder in 1864, and it's the story of three women: the woman that was murdered, the mistress, and the daughter of the murdered woman, who actually goes seeking justice for her mother's death. And it's set in Tasmania and Dunedin, and Melbourne.
Oh, wow.
And
how did you become aware of this?
I went looking for, it was when I was sitting on one of the rejections for 10,000 Aftershocks, and everyone, all my writing friends just said, look, you're just going to have to start writing something else. Take your mind off it.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I really love murder mysteries. You know, I've always been an Agatha Christie reader, and I love watching movies like that. I'm always guessing who did it, much to the consternation of my family. And I thought, well, what if I could find an unsolved murder and I could solve it in the form of a novel? And I went looking, and then I came across this case, just tripped over it really, and I thought, God, this is so fascinating. And these women just jumped off the screen at me like their stories have not been told. It's all about this man who was the murderer. There's nothing about these women, and their stories have been lost to time, and they deserve to be told. They deserve their time. And the more I looked, the more I found, and I'm like a dog with a bone when it comes to research. I just will not give up. And I just found all these amazing things about these women, and I just they just fascinate me. They're three very strong-minded, amazing women, and I want to tell their stories. I want to do them justice. And so, yeah, I've just done a big research trip down to Tassie, and I'm hoping to get over to Dunedin sometime to research a bit more there too.
Yeah,
it's sounds
very interesting. And I can imagine the research must be really interesting too.
That's the fun stuff, really. And you have to kind of wean yourself off. And
try to not get too carried away with too much. Yeah.
That's right.
And how far along are you with this?
Not too well. I've done all the research, I think, now. I actually went to the property where these people lived in 1864 and knocked on the door. This is what I say, my reporting background comes in handy, because you just go, hi, you don't know me, but some people lived on your land in 1864. And
did they even know about it?
Yeah, they knew exactly who I was talking about. And it was like, and the guy went, Jenny, she's here about that family. And it was like, they know all about it. Great.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, their house was up the back. I'll take you up the back. And we spent, the afternoon walking around the hills. It was great. So, yeah, I've probably got, I don't know, I'm about a quarter of a way through the first draft, but it's getting a lot easier now that I'm underway. It won't be, I've set myself a deadline that I'll have the first draft finished by my birthday at the end of August. So that's still on the cards.
Yeah. No, that sounds really good. I hope I get a chance to talk to you about that one.
So do I.
And could you tell us what you like? Like you said, you like mysteries and that. What do you like reading yourself? And is there something you might have been reading lately that you'd like to recommend to us?
Oh, well, yes. I had a good hard think about this. I'm actually quite tough on books. I find it really hard to find something I love. But there are a few things. One is this book here, which is an oldie but a goodie, Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn.
Yep.
I really love that book, and it's one of the few books that I was reading, and during the day I would think, I can't wait to get back to bed tonight.
Yeah.
I need to find out what's happening next. Yeah. And it's similar themes to Aftershocks in terms of the mother relationship. I think that's why I really liked it. I read it while I was writing Aftershocks, and it really spoke to me. The book that I really want to talk about is not out yet, but it's out soon. I think it's only in a few weeks, and it's the winner of the Penguin Literary Prize, and it's called Denizen by James Mackenzie Watson. I had the pleasure of reading it about a week ago. He invited me to endorse it for him, and I have to say I have not been moved by a book.
Oh, really? How do you spell that? I was just having a look to see if I could
DENIZEN.
Yeah. Oh, ZDN, okay.
Denizen, yeah. And when I stopped reading it, I closed it and I just sat there staring into space for about 10 minutes.
Okay.
It's so good. It's so good. And I thoroughly, wholeheartedly recommend it. It's amazing.
Yeah. I'll have to have a look at that one.
Yeah, I can't remember the date that it's out, but it's very soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
And could you tell us what you hope readers love about your book?
Oh, very good question, Jackie. Gosh, what do I hope they love about it? I think when I was writing it, it does jump around in time, and that's something that some people don't like. But I was always hoping that people would trust me as the author, that they could sort of take my hand, and I'd never take them anywhere that they didn't need to go, and that and trust that it would all make sense in the end. And I like a book that makes me work a little bit, makes me kind of think, why is she telling me this now? What's this story about? Like, what's the message that I'm supposed to get here? And it'll be different for everybody. But I hope that people engage with it in that way, that they kind of don't just read it as a story, but they maybe wonder a little about what's the message here? What's she trying to, or what is she, I shouldn't say trying to, what is she imparting here? So I guess I would like people to feel like they haven't just read a story at the end of it, but they've maybe had cause to think about their own life, their own relationship with their parents and their siblings, their own relationship even with the earth under their feet, because that can be something that we really take for granted. And so what else do you take for granted, and how do you feel about that, and can you identify those things, and just sort of send those little spidery veins out into other little areas to think about that so if they've finished the book and then they're still thinking about things, that to me is a success.
And what have you found so far to be your favourite part of your publishing journey?
The writing. This stage that I'm at with the second book, I keep, even though it's really hard, I keep reminding myself that it's the best part, because it's all mine still. It's my little baby. It's my pet project. It's nothing until I make it something, It's like creating a piece of artwork or craft, knitting, crochet, painting, whatever. I'm creating it, and if I don't do the work, it won't exist in the world. And that's the shame of not working. So and the joy of it is creating it in such a way that's pleasing, and there's a joy in creating something that works, that really sings on the page, and that's what you're always chasing, I think, as a writer. And to me, that's the fun of writing. It's so all the editing, that's great because you're improving it, and that's and I mean in the publishing process I'm talking about, and the proofreading and all that sort of stuff, and this sort of thing. But to me, the joy of writing is really the drafting stage, where you're really making something from nothing, and you're conjuring people from thin air. And I mean, what a great job to be able to do that.
And have you got any advice for someone who's thinking whether they should write their memoir or not, and how they should go about it?
Yeah, I would say just get a writing practice going. Don't put it off. Don't think you need 3 hours ahead of you. Just even if you're waiting for kids at the school pickup, jot some notes on your phone, but try and just keep it regular. And I wouldn't say every day, because some people just can't. That's just the world we live in. But as regularly as you can, keep the material flowing, because that's how, when you're in it, you're in it. And if you drop out of it for too long, like I've just moved house and I haven't written anything for a couple of weeks, and it hurts because I know when I'm going to go back to it, it's going to be like breaking that shell again to get back into it. But if you don't take those breaks, if you can, you know, if you're not moving house and you can just keep contributing to that piece little bit by little bit, even if it's only a paragraph, you know, just keep your head in it, keep your head in the game. Think about it while you're doing the dishes. Think about it while you're driving. You'll probably end up dreaming about it. Just keep that momentum. I think momentum is the word I'm looking for. Yeah, keep that going. And before you know it, you'll have a piece of work that's of some size that then you can work with. And don't expect that to be like ready for publication. You know, that it goes through many iterations, and I always work with one draft and I just alter that. I don't have multiple drafts. And if there's a piece that I take out and I think, oh, it's still good, but it's not right there, I'll just put it in another file and keep it until later. But yeah, just keep going, really. Keep going, keep your head in the game, and try and contribute to it as often as you can.
No, thanks for that. Well, thanks so much for talking to me. It's been really interesting chatting with you.
It's lovely. It's lovely to talk to a fellow Kiwi.
Oh, that's good. Just, do you want to let people know how they can keep in touch with you?
Yeah, look, I'm on Instagram, michelle.tom. I'm on Twitter. I have a website, michellemtom.com, and my email is there, and I'm there. My DMs are open, as they say. I'm fully contactable. So yeah, it would be lovely to hear from anyone who wants to say hi.
Yeah, well, thanks so much. Hope that I get a chance to talk to you again, and good luck with your next book.
Thanks, Jackie. Thanks for having me. It's been lovely.
And thanks to those who joined in with some questions.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Bye.